Þorbergsson. Albert skorar. Albert Gunnarsson hefur skorað. Ragnar Bergjesson og skoðamark. Glæsilega gert. Óskar Rafn á móti Bjarna. Og Bjarni með góða sendingu fyrir og það aftur Ingólfsson.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Best Pod Ever. I'm joined by Stel from the No Joftes podcast, discussing Omonia. Am I saying that right?
You got it right. Bang on.
Got it right.
Bang on.
the first opponents of Víkingur in the Conference League. Víkingur's first time in the Conference League. So we're very excited to speak to some of their opponents, learn more about them, learn more about these leagues, these clubs, and yeah. Stel, thank you so much for joining us.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure for being on your podcast. Thank you for the invitation. And yeah, I'm actually excited to talk to someone about Omonia. It's usually I have guests on my show to talk about their clubs. I'm talking about Omonia now.
No, it's exciting. I really like, this is why I really like the Conference League is I've seen PSG play Barcelona 1,000 times, but Víkingur and Omonia, that's not a game that comes up that often. So
Exactly.
So this is I love this. This
so
is
special.
Great. Exactly. So maybe just like a quick introduction into like Cypriot football at the moment. What's happening in the league as a whole, and then maybe sort of move into Omonia as a club, if you
Yeah, the Cypriot league has developed at such a rapid rate in the last 4 to 5 years, and that's mostly due to investment from abroad. We have, in the past, we've had the likes of my club Omonia, Apoel, who I'm sure you've heard of. They reached the Champions League quarterfinals back in 2012. You've got Anorthosis, Apollon. But then you've had the emergence of FC Bafo and Aris Limassol. Now, Aris Limassol have got a very wealthy owner from Belarus. They were a second division team about 4 years ago. He's pumped a lot of money into the club. They won promotion, got into the Conference League qualifiers the following season. And the year after they won the league, they brought in a lot of very, very good players, whether it be on high wages or their scouting system has been exceptional. So it's a combination of a lot of things. But it's not just the fact of just throwing money at the club. He's improving the infrastructure, a lot of things around the club's profile. And then you've got Bafos FC that's owned by Mr. Dubov, that also owns Riga from Latvia. Another club that has pumped a lot, that's had a lot of money pumped into them, brought in many big names from across Europe, such as Jason Punchin that played for Crystal Palace, as you know, and a few other players. I mean, even going back to Aris, they brought in Connor Goldson this summer on loan from Glasgow Rangers, and he's on big money. So you can tell that money obviously plays a part, but obviously Cyprus has the weather. It has a very good infrastructure. The crime rate is very low. It's a relaxing place. So the quality of the league has improved. Back in the day, it was more of a case of a retirement home. We had players going there mid to late 30s. It's just final stages of their career. I don't know whether they're still in love with the game and they feel that they still got it, or maybe the money was pretty decent. But now it's more serious. There's a lot of clubs in the league that have brought in some very, very good players. And it isn't just about the names now. It's about finding players, whether it be from Africa, South America. It's become a hotbed of talent. And we've been fortunate enough to see many players leaving Cyprus to go play at a higher level. For example, Hefte, that's at Glasgow Rangers. He was on loan at Apoel last season. And he did so well that Rangers saw him and they felt, well, let's go for him. So, yeah, I can go on all day about the Cypriot League, in all fairness. It will bore you.
Oh, impossible. So where is Omonia in that setting? Where does Omonia fit in?
In terms of the league table, or just
the landscape, I guess, sort of.
Okay. Well, look, Omonia is we're a bit of a controversial team, but not in a bad way. I mean, what you need to understand is that in Cyprus, because of the history of the island and the culture and everything, it's predominantly Greek. The southern part anyway. And if you look into the the history of Cyprus, you go back 50 years ago with the Turkish invasion, you understand the mechanics behind everything. But Omonia isn't a far right club. And a lot of clubs in Cyprus are right-leaning. You got the extremes and then you got the right-leaning clubs. And Omonia is not that. In fact, Omonia was created in 1948 by some left-leaning supporters who were part of Apoel. Now, bearing in mind that in Cyprus, a lot of these clubs, they call them Silogos, which is like an association. So you don't have a football team, just a football team. You have a basketball team, futsal, volleyball, whatever. And you got a lot of people involved in it and lots of board members, etc., etc., and it becomes like a club, basically. That's what it is, like a club, a youth club, or men's club, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of things was happening back in the 40s. A lot of things happening in Greece, and it kind of spilled that to Cyprus. And a lot of the left-leaning people were kind of, I don't want to use persecuted because that would be a bit of a strong word, but they weren't favoured ahead of the right-leaning people. And Apoel, which was the biggest club in Nicosia, they had a lot of these left-leaning people, members, and they decided, well, they don't want us, so we'll create our own team. So that's where Omonia was created. And over the years, it's been known as a left-wing club. It's got political ties with Agel, which is a left-wing party. And a lot of fans across various clubs in Cyprus don't like Omonia because they're not pro-Greece. You won't see Greek flags at stadiums. And there's been a lot of controversy over the years, but it kind of changed back in 2018. The club was in dire straits, financial difficulties, to the point where fans were paying for players to the supermarket shop, for example. And I know one player, Fofi, he was telling me that he'd go to the supermarket for shopping, and he knew that the fans knew that the club weren't able to pay his wages, so they were buying food for him. And back in 2018, we had Baba Stavro, who came over from the United States, a Cypriot businessman that lived in the States, and he took over the club. And as a result, a lot of supporters decided, well, we don't want to be part of this club because we're not left-wing anymore. We've become more, capitalistic, more American in the way that things are done. And they went and formed their own club, which is Omonia 29th of May, which are now in the first division. But that's another story for another. Kind of like FC United, that story, kind of like that. Certainly, Baba Stavro came in 2018. He made a few big decisions in terms of the playing staff, in terms of the managerial staff. Yeah, we've had technical directors, sporting directors. It never seemed to work. And then Henning Berg came in 2019. Then the pandemic hit. We were top at the time. The Cypriot League, the Cypriot FA gave us first place, but not the title. So they said, we're cancelling the league, but you can be first, but you're not going to be crowned champions. So as a result, we got into the Champions League qualifiers, and we kind of built on that. But since then, we've had Henning Berg as coach. We've had Neil Lennon. We've had Yannick Ferreira. We've had, blimey, how many more coaches? We've had 5 or 6 coaches since Rekdal, Ketil Rekdal was there for a bit last season. And now we've got Valdas Dambrauskas. But the thing is, since 2019, we've been pretty successful. We won a league title. We won 2 cups back-to-back. We've been in the Conference League, Europa League. We played Man United, and that was one of the most famous games in the club's history, even though we lost, because our goalkeeper was sensational, Francis Uzoho. So this club is steeped in Cypriot football history for the right and wrong reasons, which way you want to see it. But we've got a huge fan base, 11,000 season ticket holders, which is a new record for Cyprus this season. So, yeah, we've got fans from all over the world. But unfortunately, because Cyprus football isn't like the Premier League, where everyone knows it, you still got fans across the world that say they support Omonia, but they couldn't name you 3 players, for example. So it's just one of those, my dad supports them, my granddad supports them, etc., etc. It's kind of passed down through the generation.
So where are they now, sort of in terms of the squad, in terms of what can we expect when they kick off, for example? What sort of playing style will we see? What sort of squad will we see?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question, because in Cyprus, it's not uncommon for clubs to release and buy 10, 15 players every summer. This summer, Omonia, we had a big shake-up. As I said, the head coach, Mr. Rekdal, left his job. When was it? March. He was sacked after 6 weeks. We brought in an interim head coach who is now the club's, I wouldn't say sporting director, but he's got a similar kind of role. And then we brought in Valdes Dambrauskas, who did very well in Hungary, in Bulgaria, where was he? In Croatia. He's done pretty well everywhere he's been. So he's come to the team, and a whole load of players have gone in the summer. So Adam Matthews left, Fouad Bashirou, about 8 or 9 players left this summer. But then we recruited 10 players. We made our 10th signing tonight, which was Stefan Jovetic. Now, he can't play in Europe. Can't play in Europe because he's not in the squad. But we signed the likes of, I'm just trying to think who you might know. We signed a midfielder called Evandro, which is a Brazilian that was at Levski Sofia. He was at Udinese a few years ago. Oh my goodness, the names are Mateo Maric, who came from a club in Croatia. In terms of big names, I don't think you would have known any of the names. In fact, the biggest name that we probably signed, if you want to talk about names, is Musialowski, was a Polish lad, or is a Polish lad who came from Liverpool's academy. He was named the Polish Messi, but he's hardly played any minutes because of fitness. But to be honest, this season, we started the season pretty well in terms of our European campaign. We beat Torpita Kutaisi home and away. We beat Ferhava home and away. We beat Zira 6-0 at home, who I believe came second in Kazakhstan in their league. We lost 1-0 away in the second leg, but we were 6-0 up from the first leg. So we're already through to the group stages. League-wise, we won our first 2 games. Then we lost. Won our first 3 games, and we lost away 1-0 to Anrotosi, and then we won this weekend. So the form's been pretty good. But the problem is that even though we've been playing decent football, we've been scraping victories in the league, and that's been a concern for me because in Europe the football was sensational. You know, one-touch passing, playing in triangles, getting the ball out wide, using our pace in wide areas, the fullbacks overlapping, 2 central midfielders dictating their tempo. Centre forward in Stepinski, the Polish striker that had a spell in France and at Chievo, I think it was. Chievo in Italy. He was scoring goals for fun. But in the league, we just struggled for some reason. Even though we won our first 3 games, there were 3 victories where we were very lucky to win. And it sounds very strange to say that you won 3 games on the trot, especially the first one being 3-0. We were very lucky with that one because being a goal up, our opponent scored a genuinely good goal, but VAR didn't spot it with the goal line technology. So we got away with it. So it's been an up and down start to the season, but in terms of the way that we play, you're going to see fullbacks getting forward. You're going to see our 2 wide men tucking in. At the moment, I don't know if it's going to be Stepinski or Gaguli that's going to play up front against Víkingur. I'm not sure because Stepinski is suspended at the moment in the league, but Gaguli scored at the weekend, and Gaguli was close to joining Göteborg in the summer. He was linked with them. In terms of our midfield, if it's going to be Maric and Arakovic, they're 2 very good ball-playing players, but unfortunately, because of how technically gifted they are and how attacking they are, they often leave gaps in between themselves and the 2 central defenders. Now, our 2 central defenders have been absolutely outstanding in Koulibaly and Panayotou. Koulibaly signed last summer. One of the fastest defenders in the world. He's already scored 4 goals for us this season. He scored 2 at the weekend. So he's very, very strong, very quick, reads the game very well. Panayotou, he's another youngster, but he's formed a very, very good partnership with Koulibaly at the back. Our fullback Diuncu, who once was at Barcelona's academy, he's good at getting forward, but defensively he's not great. He ball watches a lot, so I assume if Víkingur are going to play wide in terms of 2 wing backs or wide men, they could give him a lot of trouble. Hamas, our left back, also likes to get forward, but not great defensively. So, there's another option there. But yeah, we've got threats all over the pitch from an attacking perspective. But at the back, I don't know. As I said, when you get at us in the wide areas, yes, our wingers like to come back and help, but it's that tactical indiscipline or just the basics that they do wrong sometimes, as I mentioned, with the ball watching or not winning the second ball. You can win the first ball, but the second ball, they don't tend to do it, get caught in possession as well because we try to play expansive football. And that's how Dambrauskas has started the season, 4-2-3-1, and try get on the front foot from the first minute. So, yeah. I've gone on for like 9 minutes talking non-stop. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
No,
I'm
but
sorry. Wow.
no, but that's what we were here for. We want to learn about the team, and it wouldn't serve this podcast if I had talked about Icelandic football for 9 minutes. So this is what it's for.
I don't mind.
So
you could talk to me about any football for 9 minutes, but I'll tell you what, I feel sorry for your listeners right now. Sorry.
No, but it sounds interesting, especially because we don't really know what to expect from Víkingur. I mean, we know we've watched them. Arnar Gunnlaugsson, the manager, has been there for 5 years almost now. So we know what sort of football he plays, but this is, like I said, this is Víkingur's first time in Europe in the group stages. So it'll be interesting to see how he exactly sets up, because Víkingur have been very in the league. I mean, Icelandic league is still growing; it's still improving. But there is going to be a difference. I would definitely assume from the names you're rattling off and from the way you're talking about the league, it seems like Cypriot league is significantly stronger than our league. So if they'll set up in the same way as at home as they will in Europe, last year we had Breiðablik playing in the Conference League as the first Icelandic team ever, and they went kamikaze. A lot of sort of attacking, just all out attack, but that meant conceding a lot of goals. So I'm interested to see if Víkingur will try to sit back against these sort of attacking threats, or if they'll try to be more confident. So this sounds like a really interesting duel.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're saying that about Víkingur and how they might sit back. Now, with Omonia, what I will say is we have struggled to break down teams with a low block. However, we've got one or two players that do a lot of running. For example, Simic, who he might play on the left tomorrow. He's played on the right for most of this season. But his running in between the fullback and the centre back is sensational. His timing of his runs, he gets in the box late. He can also create. He works hard. And it's a big improvement from last season where he was anonymous. And then we have a player called Loizos Loizu, who was dubbed as the Cypriot Messi, and he's a short player, low center of gravity, good left foot, really, really technically gifted. But he's had disciplinary problems off the field. He went on strike beginning of last season, changed his agent, and then he went on loan to Heerenveen in January, and he was there for 6 months. Didn't really do much, came back to the club, threw another wobbly. He was thrown out the squad. Then he was brought back. He played how many minutes at the weekend? 70 minutes at the weekend, and he was sensational, absolutely sensational. And you're thinking, this player's got so much ability. He tracks back. He works hard. All right, he's small, but he doesn't get out-muscled that easy. All right, his right foot needs improving, but when he gets on the ball and he slaloms across defenders, he's fantastic. But again, you're thinking it's the mentality that lets him down. And maybe he's been poorly advised. I could tell you stories, but I'm not going to say them just yet. But again, it's just this Omonia team is probably the best Omonia team since we won the league in 2021. On paper, it's the best squad that we've had. We got strength in depth. We brought in Omer Atzili from Maccabi Tel Aviv, I think it was, in the summer. Another controversial player. Google him. But he hasn't hit the ground running. But there's a player that we brought in on loan from Hammarby called Alium. I don't know if you've heard of him. We signed him last summer on loan, and he was brilliant last season. He then went back to Hammarby, and then we brought him back this summer, and he's done pretty well. So we've got a core group of players which are very, very comfortable on the ball, very technically gifted, quick. And I think pace is something that Dombrovskis really wants in this team, because with the exception of Stepinski, who's the centre forward, there's a lot of pace in this team, a lot of running, a lot of kilometres covered, a lot of pressing as well. But again, when it comes to a team with low blocks, we tend to get the ball out wide and try to put it in the box. And that frustrates me, because apart from Stepinski, none of our forward players can head the bloody ball. So it can be quite frustrating to watch sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that could suit Víkingur quite well, because if everyone's fit, and that's a big question this season, that is definitely a strength, the center backs, and then the midfielder, Aron Elís Þrándarson, I think his name is. that's something something for you. We're not very good at referring to people by their last names because we don't really refer to anyone by their last names in Iceland.
Right.
So every time someone asks me, "Oh, Sigurdsson or Jonsson, how is he doing?" I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm trying to use more last names.
We had an Icelandic player a few years ago, Kari Arnason.
Yeah.
I think it was at Aberdeen.
He's the is he the sporting? No, he's the is he the sporting director or is he the assistant manager? I'm blanking now of Víkingur. So he's in the he's in the staff now of Víkingur.
No way!
So you'll see him there.
No way!
Yeah.
Wow, that I didn't know.
He's the director of Oblayas. So I'm remembering now. So there's another central defender who's the assistant manager. So there's a
right, because we had John Carver as head coach back in 2016, I want to say, and I think he brought Arnason to the club. I think it was him that brought him to the club. Wow.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Wow.
So you'll see his face. So yeah, it sounds like an interesting duel because if it goes to crossing to the center backs, then Víkingur should be able to deal with that fairly well, and then we'll see on the counter that's been their MO for the last few years, sort of not sitting back, but absorbing a little bit of pressure, trying to get the ball, especially when they're facing these sort of high press teams. Problem is in Europe, this in the qualifying campaign, they didn't look that convincing, I have to say. So we'll see if they can step it up. But mentality has never been an issue for Víkingur, so I think they'll be well motivated. We'll see if they're up for the task.
What do you think they'll be like in Cyprus? I mean, the weather isn't what it was over the summer, so I'm pretty certain it's not going to be 30 degrees.
Yeah, that'll be a huge boost. But I mean, they played in a lot in Eastern Europe over the summer and for qualifying, and it was actually in a way they were doing better away. They saved a few games there away, so it was mostly at home they struggled. So maybe this is
really?
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I'm very excited to see how they play. It depends a lot on their fitness. I think there's people like Nikolai Hansen, sort of a stalwart striker who's just been banging them in for years. Danish striker. He hasn't really been that fit this season. The manager said he should be fit for this trip, but we'll see. The backup has done pretty well, Helgi Guðmundsson, but he's a very different sort of striker. Like Nikolai is a player that gets to the end of any cross. So he's definitely someone who would be good to have in this sort of team. And then you have a player like Aron Elís, the big bald man in the center of midfield. You'll notice him very quickly. He just came from the sort of the professional leagues, so as we call it, because Icelandic football is semi-professional.
Oh, still. Is it really?
Yeah,
that I didn't know.
So there are some players you can see. Teams now, especially towards the top, they are turning it more professional. The money is getting bigger. The sort of the training, they're setting up the trainings to become a bit more professional, but it is still some semi-professional league.
Wow. So what would you say their budget is then? What would you say Víkingur's budget is?
So this is a huge thing about. We talk about this on the podcast constantly. Finances in Iceland are a big black box. Clubs publish their finances sort of once a year, a little bit, but there's a lot of teams that they are getting money from sponsors, nothing illegal or anything, but like sponsors, just there's people in this tiny country who are fans of the club, and they just sort of pump money in the club. They're not owners per se, they're not really, so it'll be interesting if UEFA ever looks at this finance model in Iceland, because
it'll be interesting if they look at Cyprus, mate. If they look at Cyprus, I'd say, because whenever I talk about Buffo or Ari on my podcast, I get people coming up with emojis of washing machines. So you know what they're implying when you see that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really hard to know the budgets. Like you have. So Gylfi Sigurdsson is a player you might have heard of, the ex-Everton player. So he plays in Iceland. People don't really know what he's getting paid. there's sums
Right.
being mentioned, and I think at the end of the year there'll be some things being published, but it's all it's not hush hush. It's more like people aren't really talking about it. I think the media sometimes is a bit. They know, like they off the record, they're being told this by the club, and then they don't really
Yeah.
publish it. And I think this is something we need to look at as a country, because
Well,
this
it's the
is
same
a
as
slippery slope.
Cyprus. It's the same as Cyprus. You know, you will see a big. For example, Valbuena. He joined Apollon Limassol last summer. He left this summer anyway, so he was 39 years old, and none of the press mentioned his salary. That's what they don't do it. They flat out refuse, and I think it's because they're being told not to say anything by the clubs because they don't want to disclose it. And okay, whether that's the right thing or wrong thing, I don't know. But obviously, the tax rate in Cyprus is very, how can I put it, appealing for people to want to go play out there. You know, and sometimes the method of how players are paid is questionable. You know. But that's just how it is. I mean, there's a player called Kokorin that's at Aris Limassol, Russian player. He joined from Fiorentina on loan last season. And then he joined permanently this summer. And he's 33, 34. And people were saying he's on $1 million a year or 800,000 a year, which, all right, there or thereabouts. But then you hear other things like, oh, he's opened a business in Cyprus, which is why he wants to live out there. What he's doing, I don't know. He's opened a business. Okay, maybe he's got a car wash. I don't know. I don't know. But the thing is, Cyprus is so small that, I mean, don't forget, it's an island of 1 million people, right? So
Still
someone will
more
know
than
someone
twice
that
as
knows
big
something.
as you, as us.
Well, this is it. But someone will know someone that knows something.
Yeah.
Right. And with the investment from Israel and Russia and Ukraine and America and the UK, Germany, Spain, wherever, everywhere you go in Cyprus, there's a business that's from another nation. So I don't know what it is about Cyprus that people want to invest there. I don't know. Maybe it's the water. I don't know. Mountains.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like I said, I don't think nobody's ever sort of insinuated there's anything illegal going on. It's more just like, I don't think it's healthy for a league to be this secretive. I don't think it's like, I don't think it's healthy for the clubs. Like, you have stories coming out once in a while of clubs not being able to pay players because like Europe is such a huge, like, not even getting into the group stages, but just qualifying for the qualification is such a huge deal for Icelandic clubs that, like, if they don't qualify, there are some clubs that are actually in financial trouble, but it's not being talked about. It's not being mentioned. And I think it's just not a healthy business model for any league.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me give you this example. There's another club in Cyprus, Anorthosi. They're one of the biggest clubs. In fact, they were the first Cypriot teams to get in the Champions League. I think that was 97, 98, if I'm not mistaken. They're about 14 million in debt. Right? Their fans raised €1 million this summer so that the stadium wouldn't be taken over by someone else. So that just to keep the stadium, they raised €1 million. They've had 3 different board members in the last 6 months. They had a General Assembly, when was it? The 19th of September to elect a new board. No one wanted to put their names forward. Right? So the club is 14 million in debt. No one wants to be part of the board. And about 4 or 5 days ago, they announced the signing of Krychowiak, the Polish central midfielder that was at Paris Saint-Germain a few years ago. I think, where have you got the money? So again, it's mind-boggling. It's weird, but they do it. Somehow they do it. Apoel, our rivals, they're around 30 million euros in debt. You know, but they signed Pizzi, the former Benfica player. They signed El Arabi from Olympiacos. That was a club legend. They signed Max Meyer. That was at Crystal Palace. You're thinking, how did they? How? But they somehow find money from somewhere. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I hear things and I'm thinking, it kind of makes sense.
So in Iceland, this means, I mean, my club, KR, we're sort of the historically one of the biggest sides in Iceland, and we're struggling a little bit this season. And once in a while, when we're struggling, when we need a bit of cash injection, there's money that comes, and it's sort of not. again, nobody says it, but it's very much known that it becomes from sort of the rich people in Iceland that just like, okay, this is the money. The club needs money. Here you go. And yeah, again, it's not illegal. It's everything's fine. I don't know how it is with financial fair play. I don't know how. I'm not sure that it fully works in that. Maybe there's some sponsorship things. It's more just it's not a very sustainable way to run a club. But yeah, we're trying to talk about these sort of things.
Yeah, they always find a way.
No, but I'm super excited about this game. It's thankfully it's and I'm here in Denmark. I think it's on Disney Plus.
Oh really?
Here in Denmark, yeah. So
okay,
they're showing Conference League, so I'm excited to see because for last season for Breiðablik when they were playing Europe, it was they were not showing it in Denmark, surprisingly enough.
Okay.
So I'm excited to actually watch these games properly. Yeah, I'm really looking forward.
That's interesting. That's really interesting because in Cyprus, every club has a TV deal, but there's only two providers. You've got CableNet and Sidavision. And I'll give you an example. So Omonia are with Sidavision. You've got Aboa with CableNet, Anorthosis with CableNet, Buffer with CableNet, and then the rest are with Sidavision. And that basically means these TV channels can show all of these teams' home games. So whenever Omonia are at home, it's going to be on Sidavision, which includes European games, which is great. If you've got Sidavision, great, no problem. But if you don't, then you're stuck with the rest of the clubs. So it's a difficult one, but that's how they make their money, I guess. And to be honest, I think the way that Cypriot football is right now, they're always looking for sponsors, whether it be a local pizza company, whether it be whatever it is. I mean, my team signed a deal with Novibet, which is a betting company from Greece. And I think it's the highest shirt sponsor in the history of Cypriot football. But again, they haven't disclosed how much it is. So it could be 5 million, it could be 10 million, it could be £30, €30. I don't know. So again, they don't disclose these things. But then at the end of this, I think May or June, they release the annual summary. And you're looking at what the outlay is and how much the debt is and this and that. You're thinking, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. So, but again, getting into the Conference League, as much as people frown upon the Conference League, it's great for Cypriot clubs. I mean, we've got 3 in there now. But, all right, we'd love to be Europa League. We'd love to be Champions League, but we're not there yet. We're not at that level yet. But the fact that we're getting to play teams like Víkingur and, you know, who've we got? We've got Legia Warsaw. We've got, I mean, even up above, got Fiorentina, so do Buffer. So it's great. And it increases the visibility of the league because you're thinking, all right, you've got a few players that are in their 30s, but you've got some younger players that can showcase their talents. And as I mentioned before, we had Gaguli that was linked with Gothenburg. The deal broke down last minute. And we got other players who perhaps won't play at this level again. For example, our goalkeeper, Fabiano, he came on a free transfer, 4 or 5 years ago. Before that, he was at Fenerbahce. He was at Porto. He played with Casemiro at Porto. You know, this is a goalkeeper that's played in big leagues. And even though he's 37, 38, he was our best player about 2-3 years ago and two seasons on the bounce. So there are a lot of players that, I'm sure it's the same with Víkingur as well. You've got players that perhaps are at the tail end of their careers and they'll never play in the Champions League, but this is the next best thing. And it's that opportunity to play in front of big crowds and travel and meet new players and network as well, because that's how a lot of them do. I mean, I know full well that a lot of Omonia players, when we played Man United, they became very close to some of the players, either because they spoke the same language or they're from the same country. So it helps them. And to be fair, there's quite a few big football agents out there that used to play for Omonia. You know, one of them called Gunter Thibault. He's one of the biggest agents in Belgium. He used to play for Omonia. Didn't play many games, but he played for Omonia. Nelson Viega, his son Renato, joined Chelsea in the summer. Yeah. So there's always links here and there. You always tend to find it always comes through Cyprus somehow.
It's in the water, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, but it's like I said, I'm really excited to see this. I think this is like I said, this is what the Conference League should be. This is what I think European football should be more of. Iceland against Cyprus, Iceland against Belgium, all this sort of Cyprus
I
against.
love that.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love
This is perfect. So
when they were talking about a Super League with your big clubs, I was like, give us a Super League as well. Give us one of those, but with Ireland, just keep them away from us. We don't want you.
Exactly.
We don't want you. I don't want to see Paris Saint-Germain against Barcelona. Like you said, I've seen that. I've done that dance before. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. No, this is much more fun. So, thank you so much. This has been really, really, really fun. This has been really, really interesting. I think, like I said, I think it's important to learn about these sort of these clubs, important about these leagues. I think it's very easy for Icelandic sort of fans, Icelandic clubs, to go into games not like this. Maybe this is a bit bigger, but when we go into the qualifying campaign and we meet teams from Albania or something like that, we can frown upon these countries sometimes, even though we're very small already. So, but because we don't know anything about them, so I think it's really important to learn about these clubs, about these leagues, and like you said, hopefully the players will make some friends, make some connections, and just gonna build the league like this. This is a great way to do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on. Sorry for taking up too much of your time.
No, this was fantastic. Thank you so much. So where can people find you?
Yeah, if you're on Twitter or X, as it's known now, cheers Elon, just at This Is Mappa. So yeah, we're just doing something similar to you guys, podcasts, regular updates on Cypriot football. A lot has been going on in our league. God, I don't know where to begin. We even the other week we had the game cancelled just before kickoff because of crowd trouble, and that was just it was predictable. It was always going to happen. Two teams that hate each other, and it was a bit of a mess. But we get other stories as well, very strange things going on in Cyprus. But that's what makes our league special. That's what makes every league apart from the elite league special. There's always a story, always a scandal, and it goes under the radar. But we like it like that.
We do.
So, yeah. There you go.
No, but everyone should definitely give you a follow. It's really interesting, and thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we speak again. Unfortunately, there's no return leg, but maybe we'll see each other in the playoffs.
Never know.
Thank you so much.